And welcome to another episode of More Than Dice. I'm Gonzo.
I'm Slade.
I'm best Wappel for a change.
Ooh, there's a bold statement.
Bold statement there. God, let's see if it pays off. Guys, today's episode, we are going to be talking a Reapercon review. John has the night off. Kathy is in the chat channel, so we're always happy to have her there. But today we have Big Jim Slade from Big Jim Slade Gaming. We get another good shout out on the chat for that man's channel. And we have James Wappel. And if we can get also a shout out for his Twitch channel, so everybody can make sure they can go over there and see that. But today we're going to be talking about Reapercon. John has a night off. But let's go ahead and get to the real business real quick. We want to thank Turbo Dork for all of their stuff. We have given away all of their gift certificates. So I will be talking to them at Warfare Weekend, see if they want to do some more sponsorship. If you like color shifting paint and metallic paint, go check them out. We want to thank Muse on Minis. They are trying to get their site back up so everybody can re-host things. It's just taking a little bit longer than usual, so you can find us on all the other channels. We want to thank Mini Masterworks for all the cool things he does, and if you like anything in this store, you can use MMW. More Than Dice MMW 10, and you can get 10% off anything at the store. And also Parabellum War Games, makers of Conquest, which Jim will be painting up some Wadroon Velociraptor riders. And you can also get a discount there at their store if you buy anything from them using our affiliate code. And Midnight Heroes. If you were at Reapercon, Midnight Hero was at Reapercon, and they released a bunch of new miniatures and their new mini game, Duel of Fates, which he will also be bringing to Warfare Weekend. So you could pick up some of those miniatures and kind of play that game. So I think I got everybody. Did I get everybody? Jim, you're supposed to know this, both of you.
Sure. Yeah, of course you did.
You're supposed to cover my butt on this.
Oh no, you're hanging out there, dude. Sorry.
Wasn't Gillette one of your other sponsors?
No, Gillette is not one of our sponsors. So this week we're going to be discussing all the Reapercon news, because Big Jim Slade went, and he's going to tell us everything that happened and what all he bought, what all he didn't buy, what all he did. But we have to get to the second most important part of the show. Let's see. We have to shout out to anybody pass away this week.
I don't know.
Just my dignity.
Oh, that's that. Mine's been in the ground for many years.
Many years. Yeah, it hasn't gone anywhere from me, so I'm not worried about that.
I mean, the Queen.
The Queen passed away. Longest reigning queen. Was it 70 some odd years?
Yeah.
And she was 96. That's pretty old. I don't think.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else right off the top of my head.
Hold on, I'm going to check the chat channel.
This interlude brought to you by the sponsor that Gonzo forgot to mention and we'll remember later.
Yeah.
I think it was Gillette.
It probably was. I mean,
Either that was Charmin.
I have no clue. Didn't say anything.
Stamps.com.
Couldn't remember anybody
like all
else.
other podcasts.
Yeah, don't know. Don't remember anybody, but we have a good shout out for that. Also, Jim Slade, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a little bit of a rum lemonade punch that I made. The last of it, in fact. So just chilling with this, and it's a little bit of local, actually, New England rum.
Oh. And Wappel?
I've got my blackberry ginger ale and Kraken.
Nice.
I'm going and being the nice boy tonight, and nothing but water. I've got some type of thing going on. I'm not sure what it is right now. But I've got like a lot of inflammation in my chest. So I have to. My chest walls are inflamed, and so I've got to take some medication for that. So I'm drinking water. So, guys, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate everything you do, listening here or on all of our multimedia links. We appreciate it. Please take care of yourself. Please watch out for each other. Cheers.
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 Oh man, yeah. Hold on. Wait, this is like
Oh, is that some fine water you got going
that's
there?
some fine filtered water from the refrigerator.
Going top shelf.
Top shelf on that. So Reapercon happened this last weekend, last week technically, because it starts very early in the week, type thing, and goes for quite a while.
It's Thursday.
I thought it started like Wednesday.
No. A lot of people arrive on Wednesday and do a lot of setup, and on Wednesday evening they have sort of a meet and greet type of cookout or whatever.
Yeah.
But the con doesn't actually start till Thursday morning.
Okay.
Thursday, and then runs to midday Sunday.
Okay. So like I said, if we're running a right before the what is it called? The media section, we will be doing a giveaway. So make sure that you get in your raffle tickets to get that going. So, Slade, it's all you. Tell us about Reapercon.
Yeah.
What is Reapercon?
So Reapercon, hold on, I gotta get a little drink here. Reapercon is basically a miniatures con with a lot of gaming and other things that's put on by Reaper. The Reaper Miniatures, they're based in Denton, Texas. They do their con down there. There's a lot of artists that come down there. There's classes. There's the MSP Open, which is a competition of sorts. And just a lot of fun. It's a very, honestly, it's one of the more relaxed cons for that I've gone to, where everybody's just sort of there and having a good time and chilling, and we'll set up our paint stations and on a table, and people will just mill around, and if they're not in a class or doing one of the activities, sit around and just sort of socialize and swap secrets, or just shoot the breeze with people that you see maybe once a year or on their streams or whatever. And it's a good opportunity to get feedback on your work from the pros, and they put on a really good time. They put a lot of work into it to make it a fun con. So
well, I have a question. I've never been to
Sure.
Reapercon. Never been there. Kind of. I'm not saying it's not my type of con, but from what I can tell, it's something I would just go to be a hangout with.
Sure.
Because I'm more of a player than an artiste type of thing. So if you get what I'm saying. So do they have like tournaments or miniature games? Is there something like structured just like a normal convention?
So there's a number of various RPGs that go on during the con. So it's in a I think it's Embassy Suites Convention Center, and so there's the big convention room where they have a number of the big circular, the cafeteria type tables that you have in the church halls or things like that. Tons of those spread across the hall, and people will set up kind of camp there. There's vendors row, and in the lobby and in some of the halls, they will also have gaming tables set up. Some are vendors hawking their newest game or having demos of their newest game. There's a number of D&D or TTRPGs in general that run throughout the entire weekend that you can sign up for to participate or run. There's a lot of pickup games. There aren't war games like you'll have in Warfare Weekend necessarily. It's not those kind of miniatures. Most of them are fantasy. They do have a sci-fi line, But it isn't organized the same way that you would have your Warcry tournaments or anything like that.
So is there like a vendor hall or
Yes.
okay?
Yeah, there's a good sized vendor hall, and you talked about Midnight Heroes. They had a fantastic booth. I may have spent a decent amount of money there, um, including this new larger chibi unicorn that is going to be hopefully a favorite Christmas present for my niece this winter. Um, no, they have a good size. It actually had a bigger vendor hall this year than last year. A lot of things were bigger for obvious reasons. Last year it was toned down a lot. They were limited to the number of people they could have. But no, they had some great vendors in there. I'm still going through all my business cards that I collected while I was there. I had to kind of limit my spending a little bit because I was flying. um, so I couldn't take home the 3-foot dice tower that I eyed for a little while. I may bribe the artist to send me the STL because it was amazing. It was this wonderful tower with minarets, and it was beautiful. But no, artists. They had a bunch of oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the
It's
vehicle.
called Artist Alley, right? And they have about 30 artists or so
Oh
there.
yeah. Well, some of the vendors though, so there were like Christine Van Patten had her own booth, for example, with Moonlight Minis. Artist Row is different. That's on the other side of the hall, and yes, it's 4 rows of artists, both the sculptors like Bobby Jackson and Christine Van Patten and some others, but also artists like Yeji Kim and Ann Forrester and just a slew of people that were in there, the teachers, a whole bunch of different artists. And they were all super approachable and super friendly, and more than happy to talk. I loved how one of the artists, and I don't know who he was, I never got back to find out his name, must have spent about a half an hour talking to these 2 roughly 10-year-old kids who had brought their minis in and were showing him the painting that they did on it. And he just sat with them, and it was wonderful watching it. I was really enjoying watching it from where we were sitting.
So you said whenever you go to set up, do you have to buy a space if you want to set up a game or whatever, or was it just like
No.
you just claimed a spot, popped a squat?
If you're a vendor, yes.
Gotcha.
So
yeah.
if you're pitching a game, of course you have to do that. They do have signups where you can put your name in and say, I'd like to run a game, and they will have you will be able to they'll get one of the reserved tables. There are a number of tables though that are free for all. In fact, Asmo and myself and a number of the Nightheart folks kind of did that. We just sat down at one of the tables, found out that in a half hour it was going to be used by somebody else that had reserved it. So we just moved one table over and we started playing. And there's a number of board games too. They have this big board game checkout, a board game library too. So people were doing that as well. Like I said, it's a very relaxed. I'm not going to say unstructured because it is far from unstructured, but it was a very relaxed con. There isn't all this pressure to do a million things. I only took 3 classes. I took 1 a day because last year I kind of burned myself out a little on classes. Didn't get to do the activities. So, but I know others. One of the other Twitch streamers, she took like 7 or 8 classes.
Dang.
She was in classes the whole time. So there was it's a make your own con type of thing.
Yeah.
There's also sort of this free for all activity setup they have. I think it was, and I think Asma might still be in chat. I think it's like every 2 hours they have this different activity that happens in this area. There's a speed paint. There's a what they call Sophie Says. Sophie is one of the mascots of the Reaper Company, and it's a Simon Says painting. And you walk around with your stuff, and it's as you're painting and walking around and doing a Simon Says game. things along those. A lot of fun, just general activities along those lines. It is a lot smaller than your Adepticons and things like that. So I don't like using the word intimate because it's not super appropriate, but it becomes a little bit more so in a smaller con like that.
I think the Saturday night is the big night with all the awards for the MSP, and then Sunday is the big auction, or no, it's the auction, right, with the Reaper bucks and everything.
So they don't do they haven't done the auction the past couple of years. What they have is sort of a Reaper bucks store. That's right, Kathy does remind me in chat, there was a gummy bear painting contest that, if I'm not mistaken, she started. We continued to do that this year. A lot of folks came up to me and said, that everybody missed having Jim and Kathy there, and we made sure that they were not forgotten. We even used a bunch of gummy bears in the minis for a ridiculous game that we of D&D that we played on Sunday morning on their stream.
Okay.
And somebody might have been a Wappel imposter while they were there.
Okay.
I heard there was a big drama, and there was a lot of drama because someone was being an imposter of a Wappel.
Gosh, I hope Asmodeus Soulpire is still in chat here. So we had set up our table. It was sort of the Pyro Club table, which is our stream community and a bunch of others. It was not really drama. It was hilarious. And I don't have the tag down here. I am mad at myself for not having it here. So we were sitting and painting, and I have these, my magnifiers. So I have that on, my hair pulled back on the ponytail, and I'm hunched over painting something. And somebody comes up to me, this couple comes over carrying a box. And they're like, "Excuse me, are you Jim Wappel?" And I'm like trying to figure out the best response here as I look across the table, and I see Asmo just giving himself a concussion with the face palm. Of all the people to do this, it's me. And I said, no, I'm not. And they were very, very nice. They were sweet. They had a box of assorted, really random art supplies that they had collected but were never going to use, and thought it would be, something that Jim and Kathy might like. Because I didn't go through it. He said there was just some oddball stuff. We sat and chatted for a little while, and I talked to Kathy and got an address for them to send it to, because they really wanted to send it and get it over to them. And then they came back later, and at Reapercon, there's these little ribbons that have sticky on one part, and people have a lot of custom ribbons, and you have them hanging off your badge. Some cons do pins, some do others. Reapercon, it's this long trail of ribbons. They had taken a gold paint pen and wrote a ribbon for me, Wappel Imposter, and presented that to me later on. So it was prominently on my badge. And I mentioned it to Kathy, and I was really glad that I at least, gave her a good laugh. And then her and Jim got a big kick out of it, and I'm really glad for that. That it was all funny. They were super nice. I talked to them a few more times during the con. Just a really, really nice young couple. Very much into painting.
I just really like it because, for a change, I am not the worst best Wappel.
So apparently, Jim, later on somebody came into your stream and told you about it, and so I was declared the third best Wappel there on your stream.
Yeah, because I'm always Kathy is always best Wappel.
Oh, of course she is.
And the most recent Wappel always has to be the worst best Wappel. So just by default, I'm in the middle. So that I claim that as my trophy. That is I am the patron saint of mediocrity, then, of mediocre Wapples.
You're the middle child. And then when I came home, my son was cracking up because my son knows everybody in the community. My wife had no idea what was so funny for a little while. And she's like, "So they mistook you for somebody?" I'm like, "But you don't understand."
You
Now, of
got to
course,
be there. You got to know the people.
Right.
I'll just have to have the next time we're both at a convention together. I will have to have just a monstrous blue wig with the super curls going on, so then we can really confuse everybody.
Platform
Yeah.
shoes, so you could be as tall as him.
Well, that was one of the things. If I make it out to an Adepticon, if you need a break, I'll just sit down there and pretend I'm you for a little while. It'll be fine.
I mean, I got used to it. There was several Gen Cons in the dealers' rooms where I think I was wearing a different badge every day. I was like Juarez one day, and I was, Jolito the next day. I had to put on different accents each day just to match my membership badge.
Yeah. Oh, I should have done that. That would have been great because it's all dry mark. It's all Sharpie and dry mark for the badge. Oh, that would have been. That's. I'm going to do that next time.
So yeah, we'll just have you. We'll get you like a Blackhawks hat or something like that, and a White
There we
Sox
go.
jersey, so you can wear that, and we can just. It'll be like trading places, right? It'll be just like that.
All right. For this, I'll wear a White Sox jersey. For this, I'll do that. I'm a Boston native. There's a thing here, but it's fine. I'm good. It's good. But yes, and on Saturday night, yeah, that's true. The MSP Open is their painting competition. There are awards given out, but it is more for if you win something, that's awesome, but you also get really good, valuable feedback from the judges on your work. And I want to give a shout out to Asmo, who won, I believe, a bronze. And did you win a silver? Gosh, I forget. And one of the people from the on his first Reapercon, Gel Tip, who's a streamer in the Pyro Club community, who won a bronze and a silver on his first Reapercon. I was going to enter, and I was working on a piece, and I did not bring it because I got angry at it. It was not working out. As a matter of fact, it's right here. This little guy here. I was really angry on the way he was working out, and so I had to step away from it, and I wasn't going to be able to finish it in time. But next year I'll plan on a couple of things.
And it's a nice contest because, for the most part, you're being judged against yourself. There are like
Right.
overall awards where you're taking the top dog thing, but for the most part, it's about you get bronze this year, maybe the next year the same judge looks at your stuff, you get a silver, and they try and give you, like Jim was saying, that advice to improve, and maybe the next year kind of go one step up in your award or something like that. It's really a nice encouraging type of a thing.
Yeah, it really is. And that's one of the artist row. People will come up to the artist row with their minis and talk to the judges and talk to the artists. And that's even more valuable than winning the award, I think, in a lot of ways.
Oh, there's people that I remember talking to years and years ago, maybe 8 years ago, and they were just at the start of their painting journey, and now they've been painting for 7-8 years, and it's really wild to see what they're doing now all those years later.
Yeah.
When initially they weren't sure if miniature painting was even for them, and the whole idea is to try and encourage folks and just say, look, here's some really neat things, and here's some other fun things you could try, and just kind of keep them going, right? Because miniature painting can be scary for folks that haven't done it, and you're always your own worst critic.
I mean, and that's 100% true for me in any case. And that was, and I know that what I was getting frustrated with probably wasn't worth it, but at the same time, I know myself. So, but now since I've gotten back, I ended up with a ridiculous number of minis. And right now I'm working on basing. I forget how you call it, Jim. A ridiculous number of kobolds or an excessive number of kobolds.
Hey,
An excessive amount of kobolds.
I recognize that paint handle in your left hand.
This one?
Oh yeah.
Jacob Jansen, one of my favorite people at any of these cons. I also, this year, I got a plinth from him.
Yep.
That is going to be the base for an Emerald Dragon bust. I love Jacob. He is such a really nice guy.
He is
super talented.
He is going to be at Warfare Weekend
Nice.
vendoring, but he also is designing our gold, silver, bronze. Because at our convention, everybody, no matter what piece you put in, you either get a gold, silver, or bronze.
Okay.
And then you get, then you can come ask, why didn't this make, silver or gold? And everybody that makes gold gets put in for, overall, and then whoever that gets, the overall championship. And so he is making all the gold, silver, bronze trophies for everybody. Because we used to do coins, but the cost of metal has skyrocketed, and they cost almost 3 times the amount that we paid last year.
Yep.
So we're like, let me see if I can find somebody that can do really cool stuff. And so he's doing this wood resin art type thing, resin pour thing for us. And he's going to make a bunch of small trophies for everybody with our logo laser engraved on it and stuff. So,
yeah, they actually mentioned that how their metal minis, they've had to raise some of the prices because the metal has just gone through the roof.
Oh yeah, we used to do challenge coins for our major tournament. Like if you made it in the major tournament, you got this challenge coin that had like our logo and saying congratulations, you made it type thing. And last year, like 50 of them was like $212, and now it's like $470. And I'm like, we can't do those. So yeah, everybody's moving away. Like miniature companies, if you're doing metal right now, you're scrambling to find something else to do them in.
Yeah, no, for sure. They have a metal exchange actually at the con, and they were saying that it was really tough. The ratio that they can afford to do the exchange at almost isn't worth it sometimes.
Yeah.
For you, the consumer.
Yeah, it's getting really bad on metal and plastic and everything else going around nowadays.
Yeah.
You did mention on our pre-ramble that you did mention here a little bit about you're doing the RPG, but you had a really good conversation with a bunch of GMs.
Yes. So one of the groups that we spend a lot of time with there is Nightheart Gaming, who does all of the video work and the setup and the big table where they hold all their streamed games. The amount of work that they put into it is amazing, and their games are excellent. And so I was speaking with a couple of the GMs from that group, another GM who was running games. We were actually sitting at breakfast and had a really good conversation about how the past 4 years have changed the way that people are gaming entirely and the approach to the game of specifically D&D, but also RPGs in general. There's a lot of really good small label RPGs out there that are a lot of fun, and people are taking more notice of them. One of the guys that I was talking to, he has worked in some of the mechanics from one of the Apocalypse Engine games that he was playing into his D&D campaign because it just is a lot of fun. But being remote, having a lot more digital tools, not necessarily relying on a space to play, is getting a lot more people into the hobby that then go to the effort of maybe going to the game stores. One of the GMs worked at his friendly local game store and hosted games, and he said he's seen a bunch of people come in that have been playing online and wanted to come into the stores. It was a really interesting conversation that we had about that and how, it changes our prep. I have a notebook that I do notes and things on that's sort of my ideas notebook. Most of my stuff is all on Google Docs or OneNote now, though. And that's what I run my games off of. I'm even in person. I have my laptop behind my screen, and I keep a lot of notes and things on that. How it's gone very digital, with the exception of the dice. Everybody loves their dice.
Everybody, I mean, it's good to have digital dice when you have to play digital.
Right.
But everybody likes to roll dice.
Yeah. Yep. and it's good to see that people. One of the things that I've been concerned about is especially around the fantasy. Obviously, in terms of wargaming and things like that, you're not going to see this mass migration away from miniatures and that sort of thing. It's not feasible generally. Worried about the lack of in-person and hurting a lot of the miniature companies. And it was good to hear from a lot of other GMs that I was talking to that isn't something that they're seeing. This is all anecdotal, of course, but it was good to hear that people are still getting miniatures. Somebody comes in and they'll spend 45 minutes walking through the game store, going through or looking online to try and find an STL that the game store can print for them, so they have the right mini for their character. It was really good to hear that. Especially that morning, I was dragging too, so it was a 4 coffee breakfast with a great conversation.
Which, I mean, I did see there was a lot of like one shots going on, which I think are great. From people that went, they were like, people definitely were, hey, I'm playing in this one shot in D&D, and everybody's using like D&D Beyond or whatever to make characters, or had that set up and such. Did you run any games this week?
I did not. I was going to run a pickup game, and we ended up just not being able to for time purposes. But I did sort of half run one in sort of just, it was like a half hour of just screwing around trying to teach somebody how to play D&D with a couple of the other painters. I actually, when I go to something like that, I really enjoy the opportunity to play more. I tend to be a little bit of a forever GM sometimes. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love running the games, but being able to play, especially a couple of times where Asmo and I went in and we were ready to bring a level of chaos hitherto unseen to somebody's table. That's a lot of fun for me. So I enjoy the opportunity to play in those. There were a number of one-shots. There's some Adventure League games that were there, too, that were official and sanctioned. There were a lot of other things as well.
Can you explain that? Because I know some people don't know what that is.
Sure. Adventure League is run by Wizards of the Coast, and it is official D&D. So if you play Magic the Gathering, for example, you get your little card and you can track your own record in tournaments and things like that. I'm pretty sure that GW and the other games have a similar type of structure where you're registered and in there. Adventure League is that. You have a character that fits certain guidelines for official play. And it can be used in tournaments, it can be used in one-shots, it can be used in sanctioned campaigns that are officially run by them. So, yeah, exactly, Mizzy. Mizzy mentions about it being a perk to go to a con where I get to play, and it is. It's true. So those are ones that I generally don't do those because I don't have Adventure League characters and I don't play enough to be able to build one up the way I would want to, other than cons. In the past 2 years, not a lot of cons.
So what were some of the very, very cool things that you saw vendor-wise that...
There was some really, really good, and let me get my little list here because I wanted to make sure I gave a few shout outs to some folks. There were a lot of really good vendors with a wide array of things. One of my favorite publishers, Frog God Games, they do a lot of D&D stuff, but they do a lot of other RPG stuff as well. They had a really cool booth with a lot of their books. Some new games they have coming out. They do just a ton of really, really neat stuff. I'm trying to see, where was the one? Oh, goodness, where's my pile here? Oh, there was a new one, and I don't remember the vendor's name, but there was a game for, was it 1647 or 1467? I'm not sure which was a tabletop game based around the War of Papal Succession, but with fantasy elements in there as well. There was I spent a lot of time with them. Scale 76 had their usual fantastic booth with a ton of miniatures, and so not as many paints this year, but and some of their gaming supplies as well. Let's see. I will give a shout out, and what was the name of them? Oh, I don't have it here. Goose, the Goose and the Book and the Goose, I think it was called. They do handmade journals and game journals or personal journals. They also have these really cool ones that they do on 100% recycled, reclaimed paper. The artwork on it was phenomenal. There was another group there, DGS Games, with a game called Free Blades.
Oh yeah, I know Free Blades.
They had a massive booth, and I'll tell you, some of those miniatures were just wonderful. I don't know the game well, but I was like, ooh, it's a bunch of these games. I think I'm going to a bunch of these figures rather that I don't even know if I play the game, but I'd love to have some of these miniatures. And a lot of new game developers, little small booths with folks bringing new games into it. I talked with one that's it hasn't been released yet. The Kickstarter goes up in a few months, where it's an interesting sort of post-apocalyptic game that they've been working on for a few years. And I love talking with folks like that have these labors of love. It's not a tiny, it's not all these big game publishers that are putting on that you get at some of the AAAs. It was really, really nice, including folks that are local to me, well, local-ish. They're in Rhode Island, Galadoria Games, who have these wonderful miniatures that they design and they print and they paint, as well as some games that they publish. So I'm going to try and catch up with them at one of the local cons later in the spring, and catch up with them some more, because they have some amazing minis and amazing art on their stuff. I was really impressed with the work that they did. But you have to sit and talk with the vendors and spend a lot of time, and it's not, I spend a lot of time talking to Jacob anyway, because he's such a great guy. But I was talking with a lot of them, a ton of them. And it was really nice. And everybody is really super friendly and open about it. One of the folks that I was with, it was his birthday, and one of the vendors heard, "Oh, it's your birthday. Cool." Reached back, gave him a bust. Like, "Happy birthday." And he's like, no. He's like, "Happy birthday." So, that's not something I've seen. Like, I go to PAX, or I have gone to PAX in the past, and some of the bigger cons, you never see anything like that happening.
Yeah, it's very rarely. And if you do, it's usually from a smaller vendor. Right,
exactly. But the other one was Cav Strike Operations by Talon Games.
Yep, seen that.
Their vehicles, man. I don't play those. I've never played any of those games, but some of those vehicles, I was seriously doing math in my head about my luggage weight limit. Nope. But I did take their card, and I am gonna take a look at them some more. It was just a lot of fun, just sitting chatting with everybody. And I have this card from the Tomb of Horrors. I don't remember who it's from. I didn't mark it down, but they were giving out these free cards of monsters. It has a little stat block on the back. But I liked this guy, and I want to find a mini of him, because he reminds me of one of my in-laws. But yeah, and it's half of it is going to the vendors and taking the classes. But a much larger half, if you will, is the social aspect of it. Everybody's sitting around, chatting, playing games, getting to socializing. They have a happy hour where it's an open bar for a couple of hours, and people will go out and get a drink and just sit in the gigantic lobby and shoot the breeze. I really enjoy it. It is not a con for somebody more interested in the stuff like you do in Warfare weekend.
The gaming miniature
right.
tabletop miniature gaming stuff.
Right. It is great for artists. It is great for RPG players and people that are part of these communities. I talk to people all the time, but I see them once a year. And it's really good to be able to do that and help build out the community a lot more. So many Twitch streamers at the con.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure everybody's pimping.
Pimping, but also just getting, checking in with each other, hanging out. And it's the social aspect can't be denied.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I say pimping, it's like, yeah, they're talking about their Twitch streams and stuff, but you're also always like, oh, I watched you. Oh, that's cool. Type thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's that's a little weird sometimes for me still. Like that. And it's kind of funny watching Holly Monster, who is very, very obvious with her teal hair.
Yeah.
And kids especially, I love watching her as these young girls especially will come up and bring a mini and ask her to sign them or something like that. It's wonderful on the Saturdays when we have the big crowds from the outside coming in, all of these kids getting into the hobby and watching people like Holly or Yeji or some of the others that are known by these kids. It's kind of great.
Yeah, it's always really, even me, and I've had it happen quite a few times already. It's weird for them to go, "Hey, I recognize your voice." I'm like, okay, like, do you like do something? And I'm like, well, I have a channel that I stream on, and like, what is it? I'm like, More Than Dice. I'm like, oh, you're Gonzo, and I'm like, yeah. It's like I listen to you, on my drive to work. I listen to your channel on the drive to work, or, and it's still weird because I'll be playing a game with somebody, and then like when I was playing Warcaster, at Adepticon, and this guy was like, "Your name's Gonzo?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you do More Than Dice?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he pulled out his More Than Dice that he bought from us like many, many years ago.
Awesome.
And he's like, I listen to y'all all the time. I'm like, no, you don't. He's like, yeah, I do. And then I had one lady, we were waiting in line at Adepticon, and that was the one that was like, I recognize your voice. And I was like, And she was like, no. And she pulled up her phone with her podcast list, and we were listening there, and she was listening to us on the way to Adepticon.
That's funny.
And it's hilarious and stuff. So it's still, still comes in.
I've had somebody actively get mad at me because they find out that my first name really isn't Jim.
Yeah.
They're like, your name isn't Jim? How dare you?
Yeah.
But now I'm a Wappel, so.
That's what I was going to say. Now you're a false Wappel.
False Wappel. Faux. So, yeah, it kind of cracks me up even now. I mean, I've been doing this for about 5 years, and I think, 3 years ago somebody had said they knew me from stuff, and then so on and so forth, and I was just like, whatever, don't bullshit me. He's like, no. He's like, I listen. I like John's RPGs that he always has on there, and I'm like, okay, now I know you're not lying. Type thing. So it was pretty good. So give your breakdown of Reapercon. It's for who, and what do you think of it since it's been, because we're still pandemic building back. Best way to put it, pandemic building back, compared to other, Reapercons. Is this your first one, or is this?
So it was my second one. I went to last year and then this year.
Okay.
It was bigger. It was a lot more people, a lot more artists, a lot more things happening. It is for, like I said, if you're a miniature painter, a miniatures fan, an RPG player, this is kind of your con, especially if you follow a lot of these folks on Twitch, especially in the painting community. It's a great opportunity to get to meet some of your fellow streamers and artists. There's just a ton of different things to do in the area itself beyond the social. That it is a lot. There's a lot there. And the Reaper company themselves, they put a lot into it, and I'm a fan of their miniatures anyway. But the the owners of the company get in there and they're walking with everybody and doing the tours of their facilities, things along those lines, and everybody knows everybody or wants to and tries to know everybody. It's great in that respect.
Okay. So definitely bigger and better this year than it was last year,
By far.
Which is understandable because I mean, last year was still hell. That was really big because this has happened just recently, and we were nowhere near where we were when we did Warfare Weekend,
Right.
pandemic wise.
I mean, my hair people still recognize mostly because of my hair, but it was good to not have to have everybody in masks and go, is that, I think it might be that person. I don't really know. Except for there were a few streamers that had special masks printed with their names. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And people still took it seriously, though, which I liked. There were people wearing masks, and nobody gave them a hard time. Nobody said anything. People that did or didn't, and it was actually really, really mature in that regard. I was impressed.
That's good. So, I mean, so we spent quite a bit of time. We only got about let's just go and go straight to the media section because I know Wappel has
Jim has some things to say.
75 things to say. We're gonna go and get on that. I mean, if we have to end early, we end early. We don't care. So I did a bunch of watching this week, but I want to talk about because there was a lot of trailers that went off this week. For anybody who didn't know, Disney Plus released a lot of trailers this week, which was really really cool. One of them I saw that I'm really excited for was Tales of the Jedi. It is like all the Jedi stories based around the Clone Wars. So there's just going to be different tales of the Jedis, and it's done in the Clone Wars animation style. But it's like young Count Dooku, young Ahsoka, young Obi-Wan type stories, which I'm like, cool. It gives me my Jedi fix, gives me a cartoony fix, you can get it done. It can be done easy. And it's not going to be a huge problem. So I was pretty excited for that. I'm a big Jedi fan anyway, so hey, more power to it. I did see the Mandalorian teaser came out, and they are bringing the greatest Star Wars character ever made into the Mandalorian, which is really cool because you see him in the sequels, and it's Baba Freak. Baba Freak is going to be in the Mandalorian. He pops up and says and does some little exclamation in the trailer, and I'm like, fuck yeah. Baba Freak's in there. He's going to make this 10 times better. Mandalorian looked really good. Going to be taking a big turn. There's going to be a lot of Mandalorian people in this, so it's going to be pretty wild, I think. Going to be pretty fun. It's been great so far. The one trailer I was really looking forward to, and the show's about to come out, is Andor. Andor is going to be the 5 years before Rogue One, and it looked brutal as fuck, which it should be. I got the feels and the emotions just from watching it already. The little 9-minute trailer, and I was like, I cannot wait to see this. This better be super emotional charged, super violent, so on and so forth. But it looked like it in the way the trailer was. And what was interesting, he did, I don't know the actor's name, Andor's real name, but he said that when they were doing stuff on set or walking through things, they had the orchestra there playing the music as he was walking and doing the scenes. And I'm like, yeah, I would probably get emotional if I was an actor and they had the orchestra playing the music as I was going through the scene. Because, I mean, that would just be like, that would be so freaking cool.
The actor's name is Diego Luna, by the way.
Okay. But I was like, I'm really looking forward to Andor. It's a part of the Star Wars that needs to be told, because Rogue One was such a powerful Star Wars show that Rogue One set a precedence that they needed to do, the 5 years leading up to it, and it's part of the Star Wars universe we don't see, because it's always like, oh, the rebellion's already started, and it's always a fight stuff, and this is the prequels to the rebellion, and it's something that should be seen and talked about. And Miss Wappel has already said in there, the Willow trailer came out, and for anybody that's watched the original, this is a sequel. I don't know how well they're going to go with the books, but it looked a ton of fun. It will not have Mad Mardigan. There will be a friend of Mad Mardigan in it, played by Christian Slater, in it. So we'll see how that goes. It looks like a good fantasy show. I'm looking forward to it. Seems like it's going to be really cool and really neat. Was that all the trailers that came out this week?
There were a number of Marvel ones too, but mostly it was around the Star Wars. The Marvels were teasers of teasers.
Yeah, I know there was like a Secret Invasion teaser that was done.
The X-Men 97 trailer was a very short one.
Yeah.
That one I'm kind of looking forward to. I'm not going to lie.
Well, I mean, that's just old, that's my old kid coming out and going, yep, can't wait to see that. Because those were cool cartoons whenever, we were kids, type thing. So, yeah, I'm kind of looking towards that. So there were a lot of good trailers this week. Andor was like my really big surprise emotional one. And then Willow was my, yes, let's have some more good fantasy coming out.
Oh, for sure.
But let's go and I'll give one review on something. It is on Amazon Prime. And Samaritan came out, which is the Sylvester Stallone superhero movie. Samaritan is about a superhero that either, died or disappeared, and Sylvester Stallone is that superhero. And so since those two, there's a good guy and a bad guy, and supposedly they're both dead, and they disappeared or died, and the kid thinks Sylvester Stallone's the good guy Samaritan and tries to prove it and goes through. It really wasn't that bad. I was expecting a little bit worse because, it's kind of been done before, and I never even heard about it until someone said, hey, it's out. Or it was like a little bit before. There was like no hype about it, which I was really interested. I'm like, you would figure you'd hear some commercials or, a little bit more talk about it. Especially a superhero show, Sylvester Stallone. Come on. I mean, no spoilers, because I know people still haven't watched it. It wasn't bad. It's a good little popcorn flick. Good fighting, good thing. Good superhero stuff. So it wasn't bad. Was it great? Not really. It gets like a 2 space herpes. So like I says, it's a good popcorn flick if you got a little bit of time and you just want to kill a little bit of time watching this. It was all right. Had some good twists. It's kind of on par with Hancock, but less funny and more serious. Cookie was better than Hancock or worse or on par. It was probably about the same, but less comedy and more serious. Yeah, I definitely watch once. I could say you could definitely watch this once and be okay with it. Watch it more once, nah. But watch it once when you have some time. Go for it. I mean, a 2's not a bad. 2 space operas isn't horrible.
It's no Indestructible, is what you're saying.
Oh no, definitely not. So Big Jim, what do you got for us this week?
I have been watching. I love Alan Tudyk, so I've been catching up on the new episodes of Resident Alien, which he plays an alien that came into a crash landed on Earth on a mission to destroy all life on Earth, and got stranded and is pretending to be a doctor in a small Colorado town. And it's wonderful. Alan Tudyk, I love the guy anyway.
Oh yeah.
He throws himself into characters in ways that just amaze me sometimes. It's a really good show. There's suspension of disbelief. I don't remember if it was here or somebody else was talking about some of the shows like Lock and Key and some of those others where you get into subsequent seasons and you're like, you haven't learned a thing. You're still making the same stupid mistakes. Why? There's only a little bit of that in here. And that's, I think, the only time where I'm sitting there going, oh God, why are you doing this? Overall, it's a great show. Between that and I've started watching Invincible on Amazon Prime. I haven't finished it yet, so I'm not going to give a rating. I'm only about halfway through the first season. But I'm a Robert Kirkman fan anyway. It is a violent show. It's not The Boys, but it is a violent, gory show. Yeah. Really, really good characters, though. Yes. I really, really like it so far. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I haven't seen Resident Alien, but I saw that on there, and I was like, oh, that looks like it'd be kind of fun. But yeah, Invincible, I'm ready for the new season of that. When? We have no clue nowadays. But
yeah, who knows?
I'm really looking for that. Mr. Wappel, did you have anything besides Rings of Power?
Just Rings of Profit.
Okay. we will talk about that as a later one. Because I know we'll talk about that in the middle. So I watched the new episode of She-Hulk. Mm-hmm. And I had someone message me. They were listening to our podcast and they said, now that you gave me a take on what She-Hulk's supposed to be, aka a comedy superhero show, I understand it a whole lot more and I enjoyed it a whole lot more. This one was fucking funny. I'm just going to say it. This one was great. I'm going to tell you, Madeline with a Y, but not where it's supposed to be.
Oh, Madison! I love Madison and Wong. I'm not gonna lie. I can't wait for their spinoff.
Yeah, I can't. Wonger.
Oh my God.
It was, and that character is already now a big meme all over the place. It was a really good. She-Hulk has been a lot of fun, and that's the best way to put it.
It's been interesting for me because I have a wide range of friends that are watching it, and there are some that want it to be different, and a quote was, they haven't earned breaking the fourth wall. I'm like, but that is literally since issue 2 been a huge part of that character, and how it's almost a parody of itself and the genre as a whole. It's been really interesting. Like, you can critique the CGI, you can critique some things, but the whole idea is it's supposed to be a lot more lighthearted and punchy and self-referential. And I don't want to spoil anything, but there's one part where Jen Walters gets into dating.
Yep.
And it's really, really hard for her. And then one point in time when it's going well, the superhero life barges in.
Yeah.
And it's done in such a really good way. It is a parody of itself, while also just I'm a Tatiana Maslany fan anyway. Like, I will watch the first 3 seasons of Orphan Black until I wear out the digital media. I love it, and I think she's doing a great job. But as a show, like, it's funny. I thought this was the weaker of the episodes so far, but it is hilarious, and there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
and it's definitely enjoyable.
There's a lot of good tongue-in-cheek type, laughter and one-lines, and everybody's like, "So when is Wong gonna get his show?" Because Wong does some really fun stuff. They really build the character. He's such a great character in this, and She-Hulk pokes fun at that.
You're just waiting for Wong to show up.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and it does really good. It still cracks me up that people are dogging on the show that Stan Lee would have never done this. And then someone goes, Stan Lee did do this. And someone goes up, what do you mean? She-Hulk should not twerk because Stan Lee wouldn't let She-Hulk twerk? And then someone brings up this picture of Stan Lee presents Stripperella,
right?
Which was a female stripper superhero.
and in one of the issues of She-Hulk, they had her naked jump roping to try and increase sales.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the thing. So yeah, there's a lot that bothers me around some of the fandoms that I won't go into here, but it's just, this is a great fun show as long as you understand the setting of it. It's not the Winter Soldier.
Correct.
It's Ragnarok.
Yeah. It's meant to be. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be a little silly. It's meant to have a little fun, and that's just what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to do anything else. That's pretty much about it. And actually, it is pretty much time. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and let's give away something from my sack.
Where are my gloves?
I already fondled it, so I know what it is.
Actually, nobody put in any tickets, it looks like.
I bought tickets.
Did
I
anybody
did.
else?
Nobody else did. That's fine. But all right. Here we go. Let's get this going, Gonzo.
All right. So if nobody else puts in any tickets, wait. There. Yep. It actually doesn't show that you put anything.
Yes. Busy mentions that the new season of Doom Patrol. I am really looking forward to that as well. The other show I had watched a little bit of was the Young Justice cartoon on HBO Max. And that got me all psyched up for Doom Patrol again.
Yeah, I can't wait for the new season of Doom Patrol. All right, so Jim was the only one that put in tickets. So, Jim, you win.
He has to touch that sack first, though. He has to fondle the sack.
It's fine, Jim. I got my glove.
Okay,
I'm good to
so
go.
you have to tell me when to stop, and that's what you're going to get.
Oh, God. Okay, no, just stop. Just please stop. Please stop.
Oh, actually, you get 2 prizes because I'm going to give away both of them for you.
Okay.
You get 2 boxes of Starfall: Age of Mercenaries.
Oh, cool.
And these are done by Metal Oak Games. It is their miniature game, and you get the miniatures, and these are like these starter boxes, so you can actually play the game with you and a friend.
Oh, nice. Excellent. Scrollkeeper will. I bet Scrollkeeper will jump in on that with me.
Yeah. I think you get like 3 or 4 miniatures per box.
Neat.
And it comes with a little bitty cards. Rules are online for free, and they got.
Oh, cool.
So, and actually, he is local to St. Louis. So Jim, send me your address, and I'll send these miniatures to you.
Cool.
You get the Agent Palisades and the Cinderfane Paths. And he actually is going to be at Warfare Weekend also selling stuff.
Excellent.
So, is that why one sack hangs lower than the other?
Yep. Now it's got less. In it.
Just wash them before you send them, please. Thank you.
No, oh well. I want my smell all over them.
Oh, it's Gonzo funk.
So, other than that, let's go back and let's talk about one other thing. Um, let's see. Cobra Kai came out this week. The new season of Cobra Kai, which is if you don't know what Cobra Kai is, then you know you're behind the times, and you don't have to worry about this. New season came out. Binge watched it all day yesterday. Great fun. The show's just good fun, slapstick. Doesn't take itself serious, for the most part. Tries to have some good moral justice, I guess you could call it, on certain things. The characters are fine. It's fun to see reoccurring people come back that were in all the Karate Kid shows. So it was fun. I give this season, so far, this is a little bit less than the rest of them. But I have a feeling like either next season or the season after that is going to be the last season. Because you can only do so much Karate Dojo stuff before you're just jumping the shark. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It had some good laughs, had some good, callbacks to the original and everything. I give it like 1.5 type thing. But I mean, it was still good and fine. We have about 25 minutes, but I don't know if that's enough time for Jim to rant. So we're going to give it to him now.
Do it. Go for it.
All right. So Ring of Powers came out. We're going to do a non-spoiler review. So we're not going to spoil it as much as possible, but we're going to try to give it to you as much as this thing. I've watched all 3 episodes. I enjoyed 1 and 2 a lot more than Jim. I enjoyed 1 and 2 a lot. Episode 3 is my least favorite out of all the episodes so far, but it still wasn't bad in my opinion. I'm not a huge buff on all Lord of the Rings stuff, so the whole timeline and everything, I have to kind of just gloss by because I don't know. And I think that's where I'm getting more out of it than everybody else type thing. It was interesting to see some of the characters and some of the story. I still like watching the Harfoots more than anything else because I want to learn about the Meteor Man character, and I want to know who that person is. So it's just going to be a big thing. I enjoyed it, but I have a feeling that they need to. I don't want to say get to the fucking monkey, but that's best way to say it. They need to get to the story and start working with it and start having more involved, because they're building the world and they're building the story, but we need to start getting into everything that's supposed to be done and why everything's going. So, Jim, all yours.
And I'll be painting while Jim is talking this time. There's a switch.
He can talk and paint at the same time.
This may involve, it could potentially have some spoilerage in it. I'll try and keep it as non-spoiler as possible, but I mean, we're into the 3rd episode now. It's getting really tough to not do that, since at least this episode, the pacing of it didn't think like you were just like waiting for death to take you. That was an improvement. That was very nice. There was a little less instances of the cringe-worthy dialogue. So my face is not actually quite puckered up as much as it has been in the previous 2 episodes. Sadly, the Harfoots didn't die in some kind of fiery cataclysm or something like that, so they're still around, unfortunately, doing their crazy little dances. You do find out just how murderous they are. They are like the most savage and brutal creatures on Middle Earth. Just when you get that much of a chuckle out of a guy dying from bee stings at a solemn memorial service, then you know just how cutthroat these folks are. And when they say nobody gets left behind, well, just don't count on that.
Yeah.
Don't get injured. If you're a Harfoot, don't get injured. Whatever you do, make sure you're ambulatory. Otherwise, you're your warg food, pretty much. Speaking of wargs, a little bit of a different take on the wargs in this series. Kind of like giant chihuahuas with a lot of. It's like a giant chihuahua in a lion suit, kind of. That's sort of what they look like.
It was very when I was picturing the wogs, I'm picturing the ones, from the movies. And this one was very off putting. Very
It,
wild, weird looking.
and unfortunately, here you find out that there's only one elf that can actually fight. It's the short blonde-haired one. All the other elves get beat up like they're hobbits. Actually, the hobbits are probably tougher than the elves in this show. Yeah, between the elves wearing the maternity wear in episodes 1 and 2, and these elves getting just schooled by one warg. You got like 5 elves with axes and weapons and chains, and this warg just takes them all out like nobody's business. It's like, wow, no wonder Mordor is about to fall here, and no wonder there's like thousands of orcs building tunnels right under your freaking elf eyes. It's a little bit kind of like what I saw what you did last summer. It's like, did they really do something like that? Um, we'll talk about the nice stuff in Numenor in just a bit, but when the blonde-haired elf is on Numenor and she says that, such and such captain saved us from certain death, it's like, well, you were the one that chose to jump in the ocean about 820 miles from nowhere. So maybe that was not a great idea 2 episodes ago. Again, spoiler alert, the short blonde-haired elf jumps in the water for no good reason, and the reason is less good as the story goes along. Numenor was kind of nifty. I don't think it's really a spoiler alert to just talk about the visuals.
No, yeah, that's fine.
No, go ahead.
Visually, it was that central peak. You can see it from anywhere on Numenor, even offshore. It's like Mount Everest. It's there. You can always see it. That was kind of nice in the visuals. The architecture, you could tell that they had looked a lot at the images of Minas Ithil and Minas Arnor, and you can kind of tell that this was sort of the progenitor of those cities. There was a nice little twist where the big statue has got its arms open in a welcoming fashion, as opposed to later, obviously in the Third Age, when you see the Argonath, that they have their hands raised in defiance and saying, "You shall not pass," basically. So that was kind of a neat little devolution or something like that, where they kind of show these statues more welcoming, whereas when they come to Middle Earth in the Third Age, what they build is a little bit more defensive and more angry in a way. There was also a touch of elven architecture there too, which there should be on Numenor, especially when they built the place. I don't know if they're going to show that much more of Numenor, because basically each of the 5 prongs of that star-shaped island is kind of a different environment, different geology. One's mostly forest, one's more mountainous. Not sure if it's going to be homogeneous or not, but I mean, I was at least encouraged about that. And I do hope that more Numenor, more better. By the names of some of the characters here, this will be spoiler free. Some of the characters that arise now that they're talking about Numenor, this has to be like year 3600 of the 3800 year Second Age. So for those that are looking for lore, well, the first 3600 years of the Second Age kind of like passed by really fast. And you're sort of like at the end of the Second Age, apparently. I was kind of hoping for maybe each season would be like a century of the Second Age or 2 centuries or something. It looks like they're just kind of like they fast forwarded to almost the end, and now we're just going to show you the end. It seems like that. I have actually a favorite character now in this show, and that's Halberd, and he gets to actually do some fun stuff on Numenor, and a little bit of his story is revealed, and anything that's going to talk about the Southlands, which anybody that looks at the picture or the promos, it's Mordor. That was something that I wanted to see. Will they show how did Mordor get to be Mordor? Because guess what? In the Fourth Age, it kind of goes back to what it is now, which is kind of interesting. Aragorn frees all the people, which right now kind of being enslaved, which apparently orcs need lots of elf slaves, all in chains, whatever. But that was kind of interesting to see this guy. Obviously, he's a non-canon character, but I think he adds. He's kind of a plus there. Some of the other non-canon stuff is a little more subtractive, I think. This I like. We'll see if the Queen Regent is playing a double game. At least Alfarazon is there in court. So that's a name you're gonna, for those that aren't familiar with that sort of stuff, take a look at that guy. He's an important character. Well, at least he should be moving forward. The gosh, again, the dialogue. It's almost like they're pretending to be Tolkien. They almost have to pick a lane. I would almost rather that they just use vernacular in this, because they're trying to kind of create these Tolkienian phrases that are just kind of like somebody used a computer generated program that just like came out with a saying. It's like, the stone looks down and the ship looks up. All these crazy things that are supposed to be philosophical. It's kind of like more like Mad Libs. It's like Tolkien Mad Libs, basically. And I kind of wish they would just shy away from that. Clearly, it's not something they do real well. Maybe they just kind of give up on those as the show goes along. That would be really nice if they did. There is a little peek at the very end of the third episode. It's very fuzzy, but it could be interesting moving forward. If it is a character that I think it is, he really already should be on Numenor by now. I don't think they're going to follow that part of the canon. So it looks like they're doing a little something different there. Again, I don't care if it's not the canon. That's even the movies, even the original 3 that everybody loves so much, there was a lot of differences there. There was a guy that was named in there, Imrahil. It's not Prince Imrahil, but it was interesting that they brought out that name, because that's my favorite character that was never shown in any of the 3 original Lord of the Rings movies. So again, I don't mind if they don't include this or whatever. We'll see what happens. There's 5 more episodes or 4? I think there's 5.
5, I think, yeah.
There's 5 more episodes. I prefer less Harfoots, because I just don't know what they're adding. And I know that Gonzo, you were thinking that maybe Meteor Man might be one of the Blue Wizards.
That's okay. So I was talking with a friend of mine at work, and we were talking about this. And if you were to say that this is Gandalf, you're going to piss off me, because he's not even in this timeline. And I don't think they would do that. They may make it a whole new, I don't remember the name of the beings that Gandalf is.
Maiar?
Yeah.
Maiar, yeah.
Yeah. That this may be a whole new one that they're just going to make up, which I wouldn't be too bad at that. But if they were going to stick to canon or try to give it precedence, I guess to say, it would have to be one of the Blue Wizards, because the Blue Wizards are from this area and they're in this time. And if I remember correctly, there's 2 Blue Wizards, so they may just do 1.
There's 2 Blue Wizards, and now they went really, really, really far east. I mean, they went farther east than Mordor, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's who my guess is this is going to be a Blue Wizard, or a whole new one. And I'm okay with a whole new one, because it's not that big of a deal to me. But if they were going to be a named one, to me, it would have to be a Blue Wizard.
Some folks are worried whenever he's around fire, or even that first instance when he meets female Frodo and everything kind of gets dark and everything closes in. That's the same thing that Gandalf did when he was trying to tell Bilbo that he wasn't trying to rob him, he was trying to help him.
Yeah. And
don't take me for some conjurer of whatever. That was kind of Gandalf's thing, and people are a little bit worried that this will be just space Gandalf here. I really hope not. But
I really hope they don't do the Smith Randir, because he's not supposed to be during this time frame. He's not supposed to be here. There is a precedence of when he comes into Middle Earth, and I think that, to me, that would be very bad for them to say that was, because that's a little. Now I can forgive a lot of the other stuff, but to me that would be kind of breaking the whole canon, because Gandalf's not supposed to be here during this time frame. The other people are, and you just say that this is a Blue Wizard. Now you may give it a name, and then you won't know who it is because they had to make up a name. But please don't make it be Gandalf.
What we're trying to figure out is why are they're making well, again, I'll just refer to as the short blonde elf. All she can do is fight. All she does, I mean, there are people literally trying to help her, and she's about to stab him in the face. It's one thing to be undiplomatic. It's another one to be a complete jerk. And this is one of the characters that I just really would like to see die horribly, like as soon as possible.
And which elf are you talking about?
That would be the short blonde elf.
What that name of that character is?
Galadriel.
Yeah. See, to me, I don't have a problem with Galadriel being the way she is because she's got to grow and she's got to change into who she's going to be. Because to me, if you were to have her to be this great and powerful and awesome thing that was in the Lord of the Rings movies, it doesn't fit. Then you're just copy and pasting. I think they're going to try to bring her up as she's changing and going to have to go and have character development.
The problem is by this point she's been married for a few thousand years and she's already a magic user. That's the disappointment here. Even in the first age, and she's already at this point she's several thousand years old. I mean, she's like 6,000-7,000 years old, and they've got her acting like a teenager. Whereas the other elves, even say like the elves that you see in the Southland, they are far more stoic, more like the elves that you kind of think of. They're a little bit more stoic, not quite so emotional, and she is just going off on everybody, ready to kill anybody at any time. And it seems really weird that they devolved her that much just to try and show that. It's weird because all the other elves seem to be very calm and they're younger than her. Like Elrond is younger than Galadriel, yet he has more maturity and patience and calm. And it's like, what is going on here? There are some other folks that are really hoping that they're not trying to arrange some kind of love story between Galadriel and Halbrand. That would be That would be weird, especially since, again, at this point, she's supposed to be married for several hundred years to Celeborn, who's in the movies. It's not like just a book thing. He was there in the movies. You see him quite plainly. And the Fellowship talked to him. So it's like, wonder what happened to him. Where did he go? So that's the one area where it's like, why? They didn't need to do this. They could have had her also as even like a Dol Guldur was at the Hobbit movies. Does she raise a sword? No. Who's the one that banishes Sauron? It's her. She uses her own essence to do it, but that's how powerful she was. She's like, yeah, you guys with the swords, you just put those things away, put the pointy sticks away, I'll take care of this guy. And it's kind of like, she could do that long before, even in this age, she had that kind of power. So it's weird. Actually, right now, she should be protecting Lothlorien with that ring of power that she has. So that's also another weird thing. How's she going to end up with one of these 3 rings that survives?
Yeah, see, and I think that's where it is. We've got a lot of time frame that people that know the time frame are having issues with, and people that don't know the time frame don't care. Because like me, I don't know all the time frames and how long people are there, and it's just it doesn't bother me. So I've just been like, okay. And the one thing I did have to do, because Isildur is in this one, and I had to look up, I'm like, wait a minute, how long does this guy live? And he actually lives like 236 years, and he's only like 16 or something in this one, type thing. He's a young adult type thing.
That's why. And why is Elendil only a captain? I mean, he is like not a king, but he's pretty far up on that food chain, a lot further than a captain. Unless captain, and they don't treat him like the commander, like that a captain is an admiral. They just treat him like a random. It's like he's just a captain of a schooner or something.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people are having issues with. Is a lot of people know the timeline and the dates, and they're like, this doesn't go up with what the timeline of the books are. And me, I don't know the timeline of the books. And I'm like, I had to question, because I know Isildur, I was like, well, he's supposed to, cut off the fingers and all this other stuff. And how long is that? So he's alive for 236 years before he dies. So we're going to have to see him get the ring. But when are we going to see him get the ring, and when are we going to see that fight? What's the end game of the series? Because eventually, you and I talked about this a little bit, was that it's a 5-year series. If it keeps getting renewed, it's going to be 5 years worth of information, then it'll be over. So they've got to have an end game in sight, and they got to start working on season 1's going to have to really big up and be really building, and then season 2 is going to be the oh shit season, in my opinion.
The other thing that was a little weird is that Numenorians are almost 7 feet tall, and you have a middleman, or they call him a low man. He should be 1.5 foot shorter. Now, of course, in some ways you could say it's impressive what he does. Remember when those, in that scene towards the end of it,
Yep.
where you kind of you see he's
Yep.
a little bit maybe more. If those guys were like Numenorian sized and he did that, that would have really been that much more impressive. It's like, okay, you can't find, there's not like dozens and dozens of 6'8" people just walking around that you can hire. So you can kind of understand that. It just would have been neat. It would have been really impressive to show this guy. But why is he still in rags? That's the other thing too, is why is he walking around in rags? And the short blonde elf is like doing slow-mo cuts on the horsey with the elegant robes. It's like, wait, what happened here?
I do want to say that they have done something that I was very impressed with. Is she's walking around barefoot. In my Lord of the Ring knowledge, all the elves were barefoot most of the time, and I remember reading in the book when Legolas was walking across the snow when they were going through the pass. He walks on top of the snow, and he's barefoot during this. But in the movie, of course, he did walk on top of the snow, but he had boots on. And that's just pure, artist thing. So I wonder if they're going to keep her barefoot just because that scene and they haven't given her shoes, or, if they're going to keep that part of the thing. Because there were times when she wore shoes previously. I'm just wondering if they're going to keep her out of shoes or not. But that was just something I noticed, because according to lore, elves never wore shoes when they went out or went anywhere. But
again, I'm not one of the folks that says, I want this thing to fail. I want it to be horrible. I actually wanted it to succeed spectacularly. Then I realized the best I could hope for was that it just wouldn't be hideous. And I'm just hoping. I was a little bit encouraged by this last one here. I thought, well, maybe they just really got off to a super rocky start, and maybe they're starting to get into things. I certainly do hope so. For the sake of just the franchise and everything, wouldn't want to see it just flop completely. So I'm hoping that the next episode we're saying, wow, this was better than the third, and the fifth is better than the fourth. I certainly as heck hope it goes that way.
Yeah, I think it's going to get better, and I think it's going to go better. I will say that the sets and everything else look great. Numenor was really cool to see. Just got to wait to see what's going to happen, and I'm curious of when they're going to do the destruction of Numenor. It's going to be, when is that going to happen? Because it's got to happen.
It definitely can't be this season. I would say it's got to be maybe third season, maybe somewhere in the middle, because I mean, you basically, and this is just a canon part of it. This is not the show part. Numenor goes over, beats this out of Sauron. Sauron takes fair form. He becomes an elf, becomes an advisor to the king, corrupts the king, gets them to worship Morgoth. You got human sacrifice on Numenor. Are they going to go through all of that? Because that all leads to the destruction of Numenor. And I think they're trying to build up like who is part of the faithful and who's part of the king's men. And obviously Elendil still part of the faithful. The Queen Regent, maybe she's playing a little bit of both sides. Who knows? But obviously the faithful kind of get off on their little rowboats and escape, while the king heads west, Like the place where, Galadriel jumped off the boat, that's where he tries to take his whole fleet, ignores the gigantic 100-mile wide eagle-shaped cloud, telling him to go back east, and they end up not doing so well, and then Numenor gets zapped, but of course Sauron is on it. And the reason why you see Sauron in the armor is because he couldn't take fair form anymore after the destruction of Numenor. So you have to kind of have Sauron on the island first. You have to show the corruption of Numenor, the human sacrifice. How long are they going to take to show that? Are they going to, kind of introduce Numenor here and then do the corruption next season and then maybe the destruction the third?
Yeah, that's going to be something that's interesting to find out. Guys, we're actually going to be running out of time. We could go on for probably another 7 hours, I'm sure, with Jim on
Sorry,
Lord of the Rings stuff. No, it's okay. But we did make our time, and I don't want to push too much more into that. Guys, we appreciate you. Hey, thanks, Cookie. We only got one space herpes from Cookie this week.
It's probably because I'm here. That's where the one comes from. I know Cookie.
Yeah. We appreciate everybody that came in and listened or listens on any of our other platforms. It is really great to see and hear that. We're going to be sending y'all off to the Painting Dad. He is working on a giant. I went and checked his channel out real quick, and we'll give him all over there and send y'all to that one. Don't forget to join us next week. I may do some streaming of Guild Wars 2 since I started playing that recently. For funsies. Won't be like a long one or whatever. Hopefully this week we will finish up a recording of an RPG that we've been doing called Die. This could be the last episode. Depends on everybody can get together on Monday or not.
I was sick, okay? I was sick.
Yeah. And we can finish that story up and release those episodes for everybody to listen to. Because we haven't released a single episode because it's kind of a ball-breaking RPG, and kind of an emotional one. But other than that, guys, please take care of yourself. Please watch after each other. Please do everything you can to be healthy and hang out with each other and look after each other so we can see you at the next convention. For myself and everybody else that's listening, I'm Gonzo.
I'm second best Wappel.
And according to chat, I'm Big Jim Wappel.
Good night. Hit that raid button and go and say hi to the Painting Dad. It's always good to send people that are doing new streams. 3, 2, 1, raid!